I'm your host, Devin.
And I'm Rosa.
Today we'll be reading Chapter 3 of Rosa's novel, A Fairy's Tale. Without further nonsense from me, here's Rosa.
Chapter 3, The King's Invitation. Such a waste. Azor's voice sent a flash of heat through Neela. She gritted her teeth and took a deep, calming breath. A short distance away, Raynor was bent forward, holding Serene's little hands as she took tiny steps in the grass. Neela smiled at the little girl's squeal. Azor's presence made Neela's nerves fire, prickling the back of her neck. His warmth sent a shudder through her wings. Her hands balled into fists. She took a deep breath, holding it till her nerves calmed. Leave me alone. Her words ground out through clenched teeth. You're finally of age. Azor pressed into her, a smirk in his voice. All those hormones. His words, whispered in her ear, spread warmth down into her stomach. Neela's back stiffened, and he came around to stand in front of her. He wore dark pants and a pale shirt that matched his eyes. He looked good. So good. She swallowed. Her wings shuddered. A grin spread across his face. Raynor's still in love with Ariadra. Neela's gaze bore into Azor's. And I love Kabor. Azor's laugh raised chills along her arms. Her fists tightened. You think that matters? Kabor will be the furthest thing from your mind. The longer you wait, the worse it'll get. The urge. He stepped towards Neela, bringing his body inches from hers. The need. Neela's breath shook at the smell of him. Cinnamon and honeysuckle. It will grow until you can't control it. You'll feel it in your muscles, in your bones. It will keep you up at night. His gaze locked onto hers. Consume you. Heat coursed through Neela's veins. You feel it now, don't you? The longer I wait. What would you know about waiting? There isn't a woman in the kingdom who hasn't been in your bed. Azor's smile faded, but his tone was light. Well, there is one. His voice dropped. For now. He smirked. I will never be in your bed. Raynor won't give you what you want, what you need. Azor brushed his finger along the exposed skin of her arm. I can. Neela stared into his eyes. Don't. Azor smiled and lifted his hands in mock surrender. Very well, Neela. I won't touch you again. He leaned forward, bringing his mouth next to her ear. Until you ask. Azor pulled back. His gaze raked over her, from her ankles up to her neck, stopping to glower at the obsidian pendant, before moving on to her lips. Neela breathed deep. The caress of his gaze was like fire. Until you beg. His eyes darkened like an ocean storm. Again. Azor turned and strode across the grounds towards the castle. Neela relaxed her fists as she looked away and took a shaky breath, walking in Raynor's direction. Is everything okay? Raynor asked as she approached. The look of concern on his face was endearing. His hair was mussed from playing with Serene. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows, exposing his forearms. He looked casual, rugged. Of course. Her skin felt hot, flushed with embarrassment. You know your brother. Raynor studied her for a moment. You know, Neela, I don't own you. You're free to, he paused, interact with others. Neela laughed. Azor has no control over me anymore. Raynor smiled. Good. I'm glad to hear you say that.
We're going to take a break right here. You guys know what that means. I have beer downstairs.
And I have tea.
Do you know?
I do.
Oh, do you want a London fog? I'll make you a London fog.
Sure. That sounds good.
Take a short break, stretch our legs, get some beverages, and we'll be right back. And we're back. We decided to make turkey bacon. And I did indeed get my beer. Back to Rosa's story.
Neela looked down at Serene. The little girl was beautiful. She looked exactly like her mother. Long violet hair, bright green eyes. A pang stabbed at Neela's heart. Ariadra had been gone so long. A royal guard walked towards them. Your Majesty. His right arm pulled across his chest in salute. Raynor turned to him, their voices lowering as they spoke. Serene's hands reached up to Neela. She looked back to Raynor, but he was still talking to the guard. She bit her lip, then squatted in front of the little girl. Serene giggled and placed her hand in Neela's. Neela's breath caught and her fingers closed around the tiny hand. "Hi, Serene." The girl shrieked and launched herself at Neela, wrapping her little arms around Neela's neck. "Mama!" Neela's eyes went wide. Her hands shot up to grip the little girl's arms and pull them down, pushing Serene back a few inches, holding her away. Neela licked her lips and took a deep breath. A young nurse with silver hair and eyes lifted Serene to her chest. She glared at Neela. "I'll take her now?" Raynor turned back to them. "I have duties to which I must attend," he said, directing his attention to Neela. His gaze locked on hers, growing flutters in her abdomen. His eyes drifted down to her lips. Her heart pounded, her breathing quickened, her throat went dry. She licked her lips. His eyes flashed dark before closing. He breathed deep, then opened them again. He shifted to Serene, a large smile lighting his face. "Daddy has to go, beautiful." He kissed her cheek before nodding to the nurse. Raynor turned to the castle, offering his arm to Neela. "I'll walk with you." Neela smiled. Hesitantly, she slipped her hand around his arm. She swallowed the guilt that rose in her throat, breathing deep. The smell of rain filled the air. They walked in silence. They entered the gate, approaching a pair of large wooden doors. Neela smiled at the royal guards standing at attention on either side of the entrance, soldiers she had known for many cycles. Their gazes shifted from Neela to Raynor, then saluted, bringing their arms across their chests. Pulling the doors open, they caught Neela's eye and dipped their heads. The doors closed behind them, and Raynor turned to face Neela, taking her hand in his. Her breath caught, his deep purple gaze piercing hers. Sparks of heat shot through her body. "Will you join me for dinner?" She stared up at him, her thoughts a jumble. His nearness was overwhelming. Her breaths came quick. She took a deep breath, then shook her head almost imperceptibly. "I'm meeting Tigo." His gaze dropped, and a frown pulled at his lips. His hand dropped from her face, and he took a step back. The distance gave Neela the space she needed, letting the fog in her mind dissipate. He gave her a nod and a tight smile, then leaned forward to kiss her lightly on the cheek. His gaze lingered on hers before turning to walk down the corridor.
And that's the end. Rosa's next chapter will drop or air something, whatever. I don't know the technical term. It's going to come out next Sunday, so stay tuned for that. This Wednesday, my chapter, whatever, I don't know, is coming out. Watch for that.
And thank you to all our listeners.
Oh, yeah, that person in France. I don't know who you are. What is it? How do we decide it's pronounced?
Clichy?
Clichy? You live in Paris? You are our most faithful listener, so a shout out to you.
We thank you.
Yeah, you download the episode without even us having to I think you're subscribed. I don't know. You're awesome, though. Reach out on Facebook. Send us a message. We want to know who you are. All right, yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to the 504, bringing writers to readers. Remember to subscribe. Tell your family and friends to subscribe.
Assert dominance over strangers by getting them to subscribe.
What they said.